I've been asked to do a video about the squid fishing rig I use and the squid jigs for the squid fishing I do from the kayak. There are three types of squid fishing using squid jigs: vertical, lowering squid jigs down in fairly deep water, casting and retrieving in fairly shallow water, and float fishing. Another method to mention is using bait on squid prongs instead of jigs. The method I mainly use is vertical fishing from the kayak in depths that range from about 30 feet to 100 feet. And the rig and jigs I'm going to talk about is for that type of squid fishing. So first the rig, and that's it, which basically is a very simple paternoster with either 2 or 3 standoff loops. So at the top of the rig body, which is made up, the whole rig is made up, I use either 20 or 30 pound fluorocarbon. So at the top we've got a swivel to be able to clip the rig on, then the first loop, and I usually have them about 1 foot to 1.5 foot apart. First loop down to the second loop, and then the last loop, and finally down at the end of the rig a clip to be able to clip a suitable weight on. Now when it comes to creating the loops, you can create whichever loop that you prefer, whether it be the standard blood loop, which is very common, whether you prefer a bit more stiffness, do a twisted blood loop, or the loop that I use, which is absolutely fine, dead simple, is just created by just doing a couple of overhand knots, or maybe 3 overhand knots depending on the thickness of the line. In this case, this is 30 pound fluorocarbon, can get away with 2 overhand knots without it slipping. If I go less, down to 20 pound, maybe put 3 in. And I'll show you, I've already done a video where I've gone into detail about how I tie these, so I'll put a link to that up in the top right hand corner of the screen now. Now the important thing when tying the loops is, whatever loop you use, is to make sure it's long enough to be able to loop it over the squid jig. So in other words, if it's too short, you can't loop it over the squid jig, so that's important. So whatever squid jigs you intend to use, as long as it's long enough, that's fine. So basically that's it, dead simple. No different to, maybe sort of similar to mackerel feathers, if you like. And as many of you that watch the squid fishing videos will know, it's just a matter of lowering it down, fishing whatever depth you want to fish, off the bottom or close to the bottom that you think the squid may be, and then you just gently move it up and down if you're manually working the squid jigs, or as I often do, is just pop another rod in a rod holder and leave them to fish themselves. Now when talking about these loops, now I know many of you prefer to use a stiffened loop, let's say a twisted blood loop. Now I have never, in all the years I've been squid fishing in fairly deep water, never found the need to stiffen up these loops at all. In other words, to stop them tangling around the main line. No need for it whatsoever. And the reason for that is because when you lower this down, you've got a current. You've got a current, and these will come out like that in the current and fish. So in other words, they don't hang down like that with needing to have some sort of stiffness there to keep them out. They don't sort of hang down, they come out. So I've fished for squid with that rig for a long time now, and I don't have an issue. So all I'm trying to say to you is, don't think because just when you maybe pull it up that's gone around a bit like that that's how it's fishing, because it doesn't. Because what happens, it pulls out and it fishes fine. And when I talk about these squid jigs, in a moment, these squid jigs are designed for fishing vertical, a bit like on a string, a bit like mackerel feathers, but we'll talk about that in a moment. All right, so as I said, I've gone into detail about how to tie the loop that I use, but I'll quickly show you it once. All right, so let's imagine at the top of the rig you've got your swivel, and then let's say you come down whatever distance you want from that, let's say a foot, and then all you do is just form a loop like that. And then it's just a matter of doing a double overhand knot. So we just go once around, twice around, like that, and if necessary 3 if you're using thinner line. Moisten and then pull it out. Now the important thing, as I said, is you've got to make sure that this is long enough to be able to loop over the squid jigs. So just make sure you set that. That's a bit better. So you've got plenty of length there, not too long, you don't want it too long, but just enough to loop over the squid jig. And then it's just a matter of pulling tight that way, and then that way, and there you've got your loop. How simple is that? No need for doing that round and round and round several times, or twist, or trying to stiffen this bit up. As I said, as far as I'm concerned, and I've done it often enough now, fish with this setup, not necessary. Then it's just a matter of, just put my glasses on, taking the end of the loop, popping it through the eye of the squid jig, which you have to pinch it down like that. And then this is where I said it's got to be long enough to be able to reach the end, so you can loop over and then just pull the whole thing back tight like that. So there you've got your first one, your first loop. That's a bit too long really, but never mind. If I was doing this properly, I'd make sure that was a little bit shorter. Then all you do is come down a required distance, let's say 1.5 foot, where you want your next squid jig, form a loop, then double overhand or triple overhand knot, 1, 2, moisten, which I should have moistened, pull the whole thing tight, and there you've got your second loop. Simple. So basically that's it. Swivel at one end, link at the other end for your lead, whatever lead you need. Usually I get away with 2 ounces, but talking about using weights, many of you that watch my videos know when I'm using sabikis or mackerel feathers, instead of a lead weight I use a jig. Well, another option instead of a lead weight is to use one of these. They are basically just a metal jig designed for squid. This one weighs 60 grams, so it's over 2 ounces. So there you've got another chance of catching a squid. I don't always use this. I use it when I can, when I don't need more than 60 grams to get a vertical, so that it stays fairly vertical from the kayak. But yeah, instead of a lead weight, a metal squid jig. Okay, so that's the rig, and what we'll do now is talk about the squid jigs that I've had most success with, and I've tried several, and also about my most successful colours, the colours that have caught the most squid for me. I've come this side of the camera to show you the squid jigs. I think you might probably get a better view. Now, those of you that have done quite a lot of squid fishing will recognise these. Now, this is probably the most common style of squid jig used. And it's a weighted squid jig. It's got a weight on it. It's designed for casting. So you've got the weight there, and they come in different sink rates. In other words, it's the X amount of seconds to get to sink a meter, different lengths. The idea is that you cast them out. Let's say you're fishing off a harbour wall. You cast them out from the harbour wall or the pier or the marina or off the rocks, off of a boat or kayak when you're fishing in fairly shallow water. Cast it out, lower them down and jig them back, twitch them back. That sort of, and they sit, when they go down, they sit that way up. And you can jig them up and down. That's the most common squid jigs used, and mainly in fairly shallow water. Now, I have tried these with the vertical squid fishing, and yeah, they do catch, but they're not really designed for the vertical fishing where you use a string of jigs on the paternoster. They're not designed because of the fact that they're weighted. Okay, so the squid jigs that I use are this type, which are, apart from their own weight, what they weigh, they've got no extra weight. They're not designed for casting. They are designed to fish on a string with the paternoster and fish vertically down. And one thing that's great about them is that when they're down there in the water, they're designed to sit parallel, sort of swim parallel, or maybe slightly down like that. So specifically designed for the vertical fishing with a string of them. Now, I've tried lots of squid jigs over the years, and two types have been my most successful. You've got this one, which is a Yo-Zuri. By the way, when I mention these names, I know a lot of you know that anyway, but I'm just going to say it. I have absolutely nothing to do with the manufacturer of any of these. But this one is called a Yo-Zuri Crystal Ultra. I think it's called Aurora. This one's 105 mil, and another one's I've got a 95 mil, slightly smaller. They do have their own weight. They're roughly, let's say roughly 9 to 9.5 grams. Okay, so that's one that has been my most successful for this type of squid fishing by far. And the other one, which is more or less the same, in fact it sort of looks the same, doesn't it, is that one. Now this one's called, again it's a Yo-Zuri, it's called a Yo-Zuri Crystal Ultra Bait. Now the difference between the two is, oh, it's got the word glow as well at the end of it. Now this one has luminous eyes, so the eyes glow in the dark. I think maybe other bits will glow a bit as well, but mainly it's the eyes that glow in the dark. Whereas that one has got more glow. It's the belly. The whole belly lights up in the dark. And lights up really well. So brilliant for fishing in low light conditions. So those two Yo-Zuris by far have been my most successful using this method. I mean, sure, I've tried these on the with the vertical, with the paternoster, and I've caught the occasional squid, but they don't work as well as this type. But I'm sure there's plenty of other manufacturers that do these sort of, let's call them unweighted squid jigs that are not designed for casting. There's plenty of other manufacturers that do similar that will probably just work just as well, but these I find brilliant. They last me absolutely years. Stay in good shape. All I do after each trip, sort of standard procedure, is give them a rinse down to rinse the salt off, and I use them over and over and over again. Okay, so those are my most successful squid jigs. Okay, now when it comes to colours is quite interesting. Now I know a lot of us anglers, when it comes to bass fishing or any type of fishing, we swear by certain colours. And likewise with the squid fishing, I have definitely found that certain colours seem to work better than other colours. Now, whether that's any truth, whether colour makes the slightest bit of difference, I of course can't be sure. All I know is what the results are. Now, number one, for some reason, for me, is pink. That colour. That has caught me the most squid over the many years that I've done it now, using this method. Pink by far. And then the next most successful for me is green. That has also caught plenty of squid for me. And then next is orange. Now, when it comes to the other colours, I've tried blues. I've had sort of purpley red colour. Tried lots and lots of other colours, but not had as much success as pink, green, orange. Now, quite interestingly, white. I am yet to, and I've tried time and time again, I am yet to catch one squid on white. And there you go, it's the same style of squid jig, the Yo-Zuri Ultra. Tried this loads of times, white, and never caught one squid. In fact, I put a white in my last squid fishing trip and still never caught anything. So I don't know why. This particular one should catch, in theory. I thought it would be a good catcher. It's actually got a glow, the belly glows, so it should be great in low light conditions and down in deep water, where maybe it's low light, but not one squid yet today on white. So what I tend to do is I'll probably have a string of pink, 2 or 3, because it's been most successful. Or I'll have a couple of pink and maybe pop one of the other colours in, green or orange. Or if I'm fishing 2 rods, what I'll do, maybe I'll have one with a couple, 2 or 3 pink, and on the other rod I'll have maybe some green and some orange, and then carrying on with experimenting, maybe stick another, put another colour in there as well, just in case. Okay, so that's the colours that I've found to be most successful. Now, going back to white and types of squid jigs, one type that I'll show you is this type. This is sort of a commercial type squid jig, where they're fished like that, whole string of them, in line. That and up and down. Now these are white, and these are really luminous. They really glow green in the dark. I've tried these, fishing them like that, 3 of these, and I've not caught one squid on them yet. I believe that the commercials use them, loads of squid jigs on, and lower them down and wheel them up and catch. But for me, nothing yet on white. Right, so that's my colours. And just to finish this off by talking about methods. Other methods that I've found occasionally I've caught. What I sometimes do is on the end of a string of squid jigs, say 2 or 3 squid jigs, instead of, I put one of these on, which are baited for using bait. So it's basically squid prongs. So you've got the prong there, there's a shorter one there, and the idea being that, let's say on this quite large one, you use, let's say, a whole pilchard or herring or mackerel. You thread it on and it sits on top of the squid prongs there, so you've got a double attraction of scent, and squid comes along after the bait and goes for that. So I've devised a way where I can have a I have a lead weight on the top like that, and I've managed to do it that way. So I've got 2 ounce weight, and then I've got maybe some bait on here, and then the rest of my squid jigs on the paternoster come up from there and fish above it. So sometimes I'll use that, and I've caught a few squid that way. All right, so that's just a little insight for those of you interested in squid fishing from the kayak or from a boat in reasonable depth of water. Insight into the rig I use, the squid jigs that I found to be most successful for this method, and a little talk about the colours that I found to be most successful. So once again, I hope you found that useful, and many thanks for watching.